Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelly Fox. Each week, Kelly will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelly Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelly each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, and welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. So this week, the planets this week, how will this week's planetary influences be affecting you? Well, we officially have a change of season on Thursday, which is big news in astrology. The seasons are the cornerstones to astrology and Western astrology in particular. And on Thursday, we will be moving officially from summer to autumn, and that is in the Northern Hemisphere. If you're listening from the Southern Hemisphere, then you will be moving from winter to spring. So the hemispheres are definitely a big deal in astrology when you are calculating somebody's chart, and the seasons coincide with the sun changing signs. So the changing of the seasons, and this season in particular, coincides with the sun moving from Virgo to Libra. Also this week, I have some very good news. Mercury will be turning direct, and Mercury has been retrograde since August 30th. And this is wonderful news for the mutable signs, and the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So have you been having a tough time these past few weeks? I believe so. And yes, some Mercury retrogrades are worse than others, and it all depends on how that Mercury retrograde affects your chart. And your chart, that means the date, time, and place you were born, sets a snapshot of the planets in the sky at that very moment. And so that's what's known as a chart, an astrology chart. So if you hear me referring to your chart, that's what I'm talking about. The date, time, and place of birth gives the snapshot of the planets at that very moment. And so if you're a mutable sign, you have been affected by this Mercury retrograde. But the good news is that Mercury will not be traveling backwards or appearing to be traveling backwards from Wednesday on. Actually, I'm looking down at my calendar, and if you're on California time, then it will be 10:31 p.m. But if you're East Coast time, then it will be early Thursday morning, 1:31 a.m. Eastern time. So, got some things going on. Oh, and of course, the other news of the week is love planet Venus moves into sizzling Scorpio. So I'll talk about more about that later on in the show. But now let's talk about the changing of the season. I can't believe that summer is going to be officially over on Thursday. It always goes by so quickly. Anyway, we'll be moving into fall. And on Thursday, according to astrology, it will be the fall equinox. And the equinox means when the days and nights are equal in length. So you have the other cornerstones. You've got the two equinoxes. You've got the spring equinox, which happens on and around March 21st, and then the fall equinox, which is on or around September 21st, and then the solstices, or the solstice. You have the summer solstice and the winter solstice. And the summer solstice is on or around June 21st, and the winter is December 21st. And that's in the Northern Hemisphere. The Southern Hemisphere, the opposite applies. So, in other words, when it's July in the Southern Hemisphere, it's winter time, and then around December solstice, it's summertime. It's easy for me to go between the two because I was born in the Southern Hemisphere and I've been living most of my adult life in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's easy to sort of go back and forth between the two and the time zones, which has helped with my astrological calculations in a big way. So there's a lot to it. Astrology is more than just your sun sign. It's about where you were born and when you were born. So back to the equinox on Thursday. So the equinox, the autumn equinox, occurs every year around September 21st or 22nd. It coincides with the sun entering the cardinal sign of Libra. And it's interesting because the cardinal signs are the initiators. And so you have the changing of the season. The other cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And they are the initiators of the zodiac. So they're the signs that get things started. I call them the trendsetters. So the trendsetters. So Libra will be moving into the season of Libra, and I'll talk about that more later in the show and what that means and what we can expect. So during the autumn equinox, the fall equinox, the autumn equinox, the sun rises due east and sets due west, and the days and nights are equal. And autumn marks the lengthening nights and the darkening skies. So what that means is that now we're moving towards the winter solstice, and that's December 21st, and that is when the nights will be longer than the days if you are in the Northern Hemisphere. And they typically call it the shortest day of the year, the longest night of the year, whatever that is. So during this season, the trees start changing colours as the leaves fall to the ground, and you notice that the leaves turn that beautiful, depending where you are in the country, but I'm thinking of New England. When I think of the autumn or the fall, I always think of New England with the beautiful coloured leaves, the red, the oranges, the yellows, how pretty those colours are, the fall colours. I also think of autumn and fall as time for Thanksgiving, and it's not just about the wonderful food that we have, of course, but it's also about what we give thanks for. So I enjoy the autumn season for all those wonderful things. And of course, Halloween, October 31st, that is the midpoint of the equinox and the solstice. So you also have midpoints between equinox and solstice, and they are celebrated in some traditions as well. And of course, the best known one being Halloween, the other being Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day is the halfway point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. So with this season, changing of the seasons, the energy in the air has shifted, becomes more from extrovert the free spirit nature we have of summer, more to a quieter, reflective time, foreshadowing the winter solstice. Also with autumn, it refers to the mature stage of life, just past the prime, but definitely before the retirement years. The lightheartedness of summer is past, and the harvest is almost in, and school has begun. There's knowledge to be gained. So you have Labor Day. It starts the shifting of the seasons from Labor Day, and the saying, which I always have in the back of my mind when Labor Day rolls around, is you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day. Not that I wear white anyway, but it's something I was thinking of recently with Labor Day, and it always gives me a chuckle. So it's sort of like Labor Day marks the end of summer, the beginning of fall. We all start to hunker down, get a bit more serious. But technically, the start of the autumn season is usually around September 21st, 22nd. So at this time, the motivation to work is much greater at this time as people prepare for the cold winter months ahead. Now, a lot of this tradition is set around previous times where it was more about, more people were farmers, we grew our own food, we're harvesting at this time, we're getting ready for the winter, we're storing, we're going to be hibernating with the colder months. But of course, modern day times, we have heating everywhere, and it's just a different way of life. But there are still traditions set from a long time ago. So the autumn months have typically been saving for resources and stocking up on food. So we're going to take a short break. After the break, I will continue with the changing of season, the Sun in Libra, Mercury turning direct, and Venus in Scorpio. So stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. And on this show, and before the break, I was talking about the changing of the seasons, which is a big deal in astrology. Astrology is has the cornerstones, and the cornerstones are the seasons. And so then the seasons are marked by the solstices and the equinox. So on Thursday, we are moving officially, according to astrology, from summer into autumn. And so that coincides with the sun moving into Libra. And so with the sun moving into Libra, that will occur at 7:22 a.m. Pacific time and 10:22 a.m. Eastern time. And the sun will be in Libra until October 22nd. And so typically with the signs or the sun changing signs, it never coincides with the calendar. It's always towards the end of the month. And that's because the calendar is a human-made thing rather than going with the flow of the natural cycles of the earth. And that's why we tend to have the leap year every 4 years to make up for that human-made calendar. So that's why astrology and the sun-changing signs never quite fits, because astrology is the study of the natural cycles of the planets to the earth, whereas the calendar is very much human-made or human-created. So with the sun in Libra, what can we expect for the next few weeks? Well, depending on how it affects your natal chart, and I explained before, somebody's natal chart or astrology chart is based from the date, time, and place of birth. So Libra is very much about harmony and balance. If you are a Libra, friends might have commented or complimented you on your good taste, your refined manners. You always know the best of the best or what to do. It's definitely more about being around people than being alone. Or if you have any Libras in your life, it's a sign of the scales. And during the next few weeks, many of us might find that we want to be around people who are peaceful and easygoing. Many of us will want to avoid making waves or by arguing or engaging in any kind of conflict. Libra is a sign known for its diplomacy and will keep the peace at any cost, sometimes even stretching the truth because they just don't want to get into any type of conflict. So being in a harmonious environment is very important to this sign. And Librans have very good taste. This is a good time over the next few weeks to beautify your home or your workspace. It's a time of redecorating or even something as basic as getting new cushions for the couch. It's very much Libra. And I think of your interior design. Anything stylish, anything fashionable, beauty, harmony, social graces. Sometimes the men, Libran males, have been labelled metrosexual. What does that mean? It's about a man who likes to take care of himself, very well groomed, wears the latest fashion, just has good taste and knows the best places to be seen and to go. Also, the symbol of Libra is the scale, which is interesting because Libra is all about seeking balance and harmony. And a lot of times that's what Libra is looking for, is balance and harmony. It doesn't mean that Libra has that. It means that's what it seeks. So if you think of scales, and I'm talking old-fashioned scales where you weigh something on one side against something on another side, and then you've got to get it into balance. Not the scales that you stand on and weigh yourself. These are the old-fashioned type of scales. So it's like Libra is about finding the balance and getting those scales just right. Also, if you think of a seesaw, think of two kids, think of the seesaw in the playground, two kids on either side. One goes up, one goes down. And I remember as a kid being on a seesaw and trying to get that balance, trying to find the balance of having the seesaw be exactly all the way across. That is Libra. It's like seeking balance, always seeking balance and restoring equilibrium. And so it's the balance between the self and another. It's sort of dependence versus independence. Libra is the sign of marriage and relationships, which is interesting because over the years I've come across many Librans who are in relationships that aren't necessarily good for them. Libra is the sign of marriage and relationships. So Librans typically don't like to be alone. Although sometimes it really is better to be alone than be in a relationship that doesn't work for you. Also, over the years, I've given advice over picking wedding dates for people. And what I always look for in a wedding chart is any type of Libran influence. Anything that's in Libra is a great place to start when picking a wedding date because Libra is a sign of marriage. So there's been lots of weddings in October because October, of course, end of September, October is the month of Libra. So it's a good place to start when looking for a wedding date. Librans tend to give a lot of themselves to others because Libra needs that other person to bring balance and equilibrium. If you think of somebody on the seesaw, seesaw is only going to work if somebody else is sitting on the other side creating that balance. So Libra is very much about relationships, sometimes to their own detriment. And of course, socializing. Socializing is part of the Libran experience. So socializing comes into the spotlight during the next few weeks. And it's easier when the sun is in Libra to make new connections and bring people together. So if you get any sort of social invitation or can do any sort of activity, be sure to get out there and do it. There's lots of people to be met during this time and lots of opportunities to come about from that. So Libra is all about beauty. The beauty industry is, I'd say, ruled by Libra. Looking good, looking presentable, thinking about your clothes, updating your wardrobe is another good use of this influence. And also, many of us might be drawn to artistic and cultural events during this time. This is very much a Libran, part of the Libran experience. Museums, art galleries, events there, the people, not just for other people congregating, but just the artistic side of life and the arts is very Libran. You might want to meet other people like yourself to help you find balance in your life during this time. And also because Libra is such a harmony seeker, many of us might find ourselves adjusting our personalities, not only to be more pleasing and gracious, but to try and fit with others. So at this time, it's important to be liked. That's part of the Libran experience as well. Another good use of this influence when the sun is in Libra for the next few weeks, collaborative efforts and team projects are auspicious. The more that you can get done with others, the better it will be. It's a great way to make use of this energy. There'll be a lot of fun to be had, working in a group or a team, brainstorming with others. Also, Libra is an air sign, so it's an intellectual sign. So it's, when I say bouncing ideas off someone else, collaborative efforts, working in a group or a team, it's a wonderful use of this transit. Also, Libra is the sign of the diplomat, and so many of us will be a natural diplomat and mediator at this time because we're able to see other people's perspectives. And what we're looking for, and this is a very typical Libran influence, is to discover where the commonality is. So it's like we meet others and we see others through our similarities rather than our differences. This is what Libra is all about. The downside, though, to seeing all points of view is that you might be indecisive, and Libra does have a reputation of being a procrastinator, not being able to make up their mind, and the reason being is because they see all options. They can see every point of view, and so sometimes when you have that ability, it is hard to move forward because you can see all outcomes, you can see all sides of it. So that's why Libra, on one side, on one hand, makes a very good mediator, but on the other, it's very hard to make a decision because there's just too many, not just because there's too many options, but because you can see the result of too many options and choices. So sometimes seeing all points of view, having too many options, having a hard time finding out what you want instead of getting too caught up in everyone else's opinions and ideas. Libra, the influence of Libra is very much a people pleaser. So being a people pleaser, it's like it can also be hard to make a decision or come to a conclusion because you don't want to offend anybody at this time either. So we're going to take another short break, and after the break, I'm going to continue with the good news of Mercury not going to be retrograde. So stay tuned.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at ConsciousGatesPR.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. And before the break, I was talking about the changing of the season from summer to fall. And that coincides with the Sun moving into Libra, where it will be until October 22nd. So moving right along, the big happy news of the week, particularly for all you mutable signs, and that's Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, is that Mercury will finally be out of retrograde. Yay! And some Mercury retrogrades are worse than others, and that all depends on how it affects you and your chart. Your chart means your date, time, and place of birth, which casts a snapshot, which takes a snapshot of the planets in the sky at the moment you were born, the very first breath, and that is what sets a natal chart. So, on Wednesday the 21st, I am happy to report that Mercury will turn direct and finally out of retrograde motion. Now, of course, the planets don't technically travel backwards in their orbit around the Sun. They only appear to from our perspective here on Earth. What does happen is they slow right down, whereas they look like they're traveling backwards. So to make a long story short, astrologers just say, oh, well, they're retrograde and they're moving backwards. We know they're really not, but we'll just keep it at that. So Mercury has been retrograde in Virgo since August 30th. Now, Virgo is a sign that Mercury rules. It also rules Gemini. So let's see. So when Mercury is retrograde in one of the signs that it rules, it means double the trouble. So double the trouble, particularly if you are a Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces. And so the good news is that Mercury only turns retrograde, well, I say only, 3 times a year for 3 weeks each time. So it's not any longer than that, but typically it's just about 3 weeks. And there is also what we call a shadow period. So the shadow period is about a week before and a week after the retrograde. You may have started to notice things moving backward as early as the week before, so the week before August 30th. It might continue on for another, probably till next week's show, and then we should put it behind us. Good use of a Mercury retrograde is to fix things from the past. So something that you might have stuffed into the closet, closed the door, hope to never see again or deal with, it comes bursting out, and then you need to deal with it. That's what Mercury retrograde is about. So the Mercury retrograde in Virgo may have generated some frustration for you, particularly if you're a mutable sign, as you charitably give your support and assistance to others in need. So Virgo is a sign that is very helpful and supportive and likes to be of service. So because Mercury has been in, or is in Virgo, but retrograde in Virgo the past few weeks, offering support and assistance might have been rebuffed. So that would have been quite frustrating. It could be that you may have seen a lot of obvious solutions that could elude other people. And, you know, the influence of Virgo is being of service. So your insistence to help save the day may have been misinterpreted and resented by the recipient. And again, I keep harping on about the mutable signs, but they're the ones that have been more affected by this Mercury retrograde. Another outcome for this Mercury retrograde is that perhaps you could have also been resentful of others who tried to help you, insisting on solving a problem that you feel only you have the brain power to solve. So there could have been some hiccups the past few weeks around helping others or receiving help from others with this Mercury retrograde. Also, during this planetary period, it's possible that you may have spent a great deal more time deciphering technical issues, and things were not always what they seem. Well, they never are they? Perhaps you came up against some closed-minded responses to any sort of mental challenges. that arise during this time when creativity and openness could actually be of benefit. Maybe a stubborn, narrow desire to tackle it all yourself is what makes this planetary influence especially daunting. But no, that couldn't have been you, possibly not. An effective use of this time would have been to revisit old projects that have been on the back burner for a while. Things like if you've left a software manual half unread, then a Mercury retrograde period, especially when Mercury's in Virgo, is an excellent time to wade through the remaining chapters. A brilliant use of this time could have been to organise and systematize the clutter off your desk. Virgo typically does not like mess. I know, I've heard there's some Virgos out there, I think I've even met a few over the years, where they proudly say, but I'm not a neat freak, so it mustn't be true that Virgos are all about neat and tidy and cleanliness. They represent the shadow of what Virgo is all about. So it's like they're not living to their full potential. So, you know, they're dealing with other issues. So before you think, oh, I know Betty Sue out there and she's a Virgo and she's so messy, she's such a slob, that's because there's other issues that she's not living fully who she is through her sun sign. Also, during this retrograde period, it would have been very wise to be careful with any sort of investments. And, of course, the golden rule for a Mercury retrograde is do not start any new projects. So on Wednesday, when Mercury moves forward and out of retrograde, you'll notice that your focus might shift from being hazy and fuzzy, which I have felt these past few weeks, to a laser-like focus, because Mercury is very happy being in one of its signs of Virgo. And it's like no detail will escape your attention, and you might be able to sift and sort through information with much more efficiency and getting to the essence of what really matters. We might have enhanced powers of analysis and discrimination, but on the other side, a tendency to be critical, because Virgo can be quite critical sometimes, or some of us getting too hung up on the details and lose sight of the big picture. A great use of when Mercury is in Virgo, just generally, math and science or academic research projects that require logic, precision, and attention to detail. It's a great use of this energy. Also editing and any kind of refining or perfecting a process. Planning skills are also strong when Mercury is in Virgo, and being able to break down complex tasks into smaller, manageable steps. And also just getting on with it, choosing words carefully, having direct speech, being efficient and precise, and taking care not to hurt others' feelings with a sharp, critiqued tongue. Be careful with any sort of observations, and maybe, I guess, with the sun in Libra, it helps to soften the blow. Oh, and also one more thing, perfectionism. Virgo has a reputation of being a perfectionist. When Mercury's in Virgo, sometimes good enough is good enough. And let's not worry too much about getting it right. So that's Mercury, thankfully, moving out of retrograde in Virgo. On Friday, we have love planet Venus moving into Scorpio, where it will stay until October 18th. And what a sizzling time this will be, especially for the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, or anybody with planets in water signs. So while Venus is in Scorpio, and of course always depending on how this transit affects your natal chart, you may find yourself longing for deep intimacy and intense passion. A lot of us won't have much patience for superficial connections or casual dating, preferring to relate to a few close friends and one significant other. It ties in beautifully with the sun in Libra. this is very much the next few weeks about relationships and long-term relationships as well. So it's like when you get involved during this time, you will want to give all of yourself and reveal the very core of your being. This is about being totally exposed and raw with Venus in Scorpio, and it's very much about trust. But however, because of perhaps the intensity of your feelings at this time with Venus in Scorpio, you might be afraid of scaring people away. So many of us could have a tendency to hold back or conceal our emotions, because our emotions at this time might feel like a tidal wave. So there's a fear of vulnerability that could get in the way of creating the depth of connection many of us will crave at this time. And this is very typical of Scorpio. And Venus is the planet of love and romance. So it's like when we take the risk of sharing our authentic self rather than waiting for the other person to make the first move, that's when we can open the door to intimacy. So don't be afraid to really show somebody the depth of who you are and what you're about. So if you're in a relationship, this is an excellent time to strengthen your bond and strengthen your sense of trust, because it's all about trust. But you might also need to work through some of the shadow sides of Scorpio when Venus is in Scorpio to get there. So sometimes you've got to hit the bottom before you can come back up. So it could be about dealing with jealousy or abandonment or even betrayal. So it really is about really being open and being intimate, and I don't just mean physically, I mean emotionally intimate with somebody. And the more you're willing to expose yourself by sharing your deepest thoughts and feelings, the better your chances for regenerating your relationship and transforming old patterns. Now, love planet Venus is going to be in Scorpio the next few weeks. The symbol of Scorpio is not just a scorpion, but it's the phoenix rising from the ashes. So the phoenix rising from the ashes means you've hit the bottom before you can get back up to the top. It's about transformation. That's a really important keyword for Scorpio. It's all about transformation. Scorpio has a reputation of being quite dark and sometimes scary, but I think that the other signs can be scared by the depth of emotion that Scorpio has, and it can be hard to understand. So it's about facing your fears. Venus in Scorpio, particularly around relationships, facing your fears when it comes to relationships. If you're in a relationship or if you're single, there's always something. You know, nothing's perfect, of course. Mercury currently being in Virgo, seeking perfectionism. But this is about facing your fears around your relationship with the Sun in Libra. We're going to take a break, and stay tuned. After the break, I will continue with this week's transit.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millis's, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
There is no death, only a change of worlds. Chief Seattle. Deborah Livingston is an award-winning intuitive psychic medium whose international services include mediumship, spiritual assessment, animal communication, and spiritual mentoring. She is a published author and a trained shaman. Deborah provides evidential messages from spirit and departed loved ones. Learn more at deblivemedium.com. That's DEBLIV medium.com.
Hey America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox, talking about this week's planetary influences. And just before the break, I was talking about love planet Venus moving into sizzling Scorpio on Friday, where it will stay until October 22nd. How does that affect your sign? Well, if you're in Aries, the next few weeks will be a great time for investments, especially after, of course, Wednesday, Mercury is turning direct, so Friday, Venus moves into Scorpio. Especially starting next week with Mercury direct, it's all about shared money, so money that you share with typically your spouse, but with someone else. It's about insurance, inheritance, and in taxes, recycling, and regeneration. If you're a Taurus, the focus for you when Venus is in Scorpio is on your relationship, on your marriage, or even business partnerships and agreements. So this is the time to sign contracts, especially as Mercury will be out of retrograde. If you're a Gemini, this is a great time for you to start a health and fitness regime. It's a good time to focus on diet and fitness, your daily routine. If you're a Cancer, lucky you. This is all about romance and courtship and entertainment and amusements and pleasure and creativity and children and having a good time generally. If you're a Leo, this is an excellent time the next few weeks to focus on your home and family. If there's any sort of upgrade or update you need to do to your home, this is the time to do it. If you're a Virgo, this is a wonderful time for your intellect, thought, learning, communication. Any sort of issues you've been having, Virgo, with your neighbours or siblings, now is the time to get this out into the open. If you're a Libra, this is about money, spending and saving money and possessions. If you're a Scorpio, Venus in your own sign, people will flock to you. You will be sizzling and your charm will be irresistible. If you're a Sagittarius, this is the time to pay attention to your dreams. Listen to your intuition. Be very important. Even dealing with large institutions at this time won't be as difficult as what it normally might be. If you're a Capricorn, this is about friends and acquaintances, groups, online, offline social groups. If you're an Aquarius, this will be about your career, your status. It's a time to think about where you're going in your career and what you want from it. And if you're a Pisces, this is about faraway places. Anything to do with foreign places, it's an enjoyable time for publishing anything or any sort of higher education. Now let's take a look at the other influences for this week. So on Sunday, we had Venus in Libra opposing Uranus in Aries. So that's Venus opposite Uranus. And so this is more intense for the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Many folks the next few days might feel unbearably restless or dissatisfied. Everybody wants to feel different and unique. And when just about everyone is feeling that way, things could get a little dicey. So try something out of the ordinary, of course not too shocking, and within the legal realm. And at work, strange impulses and ideas won't win any favours with our supervisors, so rein it in. And maybe we should keep some of those crazy thoughts to ourselves anyway. But again, on the other hand, some of our ideas are positively prophetic now. But which ones? Which ones are crazy? Which ones are brilliant, genius? Life in the romance department may not be any easier. We're too easily inappropriately aroused or attracted to someone we'd ordinarily maybe sneer at. But some people throw caution to the wind with this influence, and some of us might engage in risky behaviour, but rarely does this have the desired effect. So impetuous behaviour can hurt the pocketbook too. So leave the credit card at home and don't go and do any sort of major impulse spending, because, of course, impulse purchases might be upsetting later. Monday, today, Venus in Libra forms a sextile to Mars in Sagittarius. That's when Venus and Mars are about 60 degrees apart. So this is a great time for socialising, throwing a party, especially because Venus is in Libra, or attending any sort of type of impromptu social event this week. A good time will be had by all. And this is a good time for play rather than work. And it's sort of like if you can combine the two, that's even better. Many people will be feeling friendly and affectionate with this influence, assertive but not aggressive. And, of course, there's plenty of animal magnetism in the air when Venus sextiles Mars. A lot of people are in great moods with this influence, and we're all skillfully making connections that can't seem like such a struggle, that will seem like a struggle at other times. Things just flow, connections just come easy, a lot more easy with this transit. And right now, many of us will give and receive with equal skill, of course, tying into the equinox of equal days and nights. So emotional and physical needs are coordinated to create or enhance successful relationships at this time, especially ones in which physical attraction is already in place. Mars is involved. Mars is the planet of passion. Venus is the planet of love. We're also in a space to appreciate others' skills and contributions and to let them know about it. So it's easy to give a compliment at this time. And, of course, negotiations go very well, and diplomacy is certainly a better route than arguments or ultimatums, especially as the Sun moves into Libra this week. On Tuesday and Friday, we have the same transit, and that's because we've got Mercury forming a trine to Pluto, but Mercury, because it's retrograde and then it moves direct. So just before it moves direct, it will trine Pluto, and then when it starts to move forward, it will trine Pluto again. This is quite unusual, but not surprising because of the retrograde. So on Tuesday and Friday of this week, Mercury trines Pluto, which is great for the Earth signs, and that's Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. So Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, it's great for participating in public speaking engagements, giving presentations, or teaching complex lessons. This influence is good for research and any sort of investigation. Our minds are sharpened and our organisation flawless. Our intelligence peaks under this mental transit. I'm going to whiz really quickly through the weekly horoscope, which is about out of time. So your horoscope this week: Aries, passion fizzles, never far beneath the surface. It's hot and spicy one way or another. If you're a Taurus, Venus arrival in your love zone means it's a perfect week for starting a new relationship or for cementing your existing love affair. If you're a Gemini, take a more creative and innovative approach to getting things done this week. If you're a Cancer, a highly flirtatious vibe brings you a fun week ahead, but beware of gossip. If you're a Leo, Family harmony is restored by gentle Venus, and you breathe a sigh of relief over your children in particular. If you're a Virgo, your sense of self-worth is bound up in your financial affairs, but you are so much more than your bank balance. If you're a Libra, the sun's arrival in your sign brings you a new sense of purpose and direction. If you're a Scorpio, Venus's arrival in your sign gives you plenty of charisma. What will you do with it, Scorpio? If you're a Sagittarius, seek peace and solitude in order to refresh your spirit. If you're a Capricorn, work on expanding your social circle and meeting like-minded people. If you're an Aquarius, diplomacy works better in your career than anger or forcefulness. And if you're a Pisces, love and travel are beautifully linked this week. What a perfect time for a romantic vacation. That's your weekly horoscope. And just to recap the astrological influences this week, so on Thursday we have a changing of the season, which is like a changing of the guard, I guess. Whenever I say that, that's what I think. We are officially moving from summer to the fall. So that's Thursday. That coincides, of course, with the sun moving into Libra. And, of course, the good news of the week is that Mercury will finally be out of retrograde. And so that's great news for the mutable signs, and the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. No longer dealing with the stuff that you've been dealing with, thankfully. Also this week, we have sizzling Scorpio, Venus, love planet Venus, hooking up with sizzling Scorpio. So for the next few weeks, particularly for the water signs, and that's Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, it's a great time to get out there and socialize, and it's wonderful for your